This is the last thing we have to do on our strapless dress. So we now have the lining completely prepared. We have the tape on the neckline, darts are all sewn out, it's boned, everything is ready to go. So the next job we have to do is put that into the actual fabric. So again, all the seams are sewn up on the dress. We have our zip in. So all we have to do is actually finish off this raw edge up here along the top. Okay? So put the right side out. Slip that up inside your lining. I've opened the zip on the back. And I place those two seams together. And you can pin along and match up all the different points along the back. So I'm matching up my darts. That's my side, the darts on my center, on my back panel matched up. I'm matching my side seam. The front seam. The other side front seam. Side seam. Back dart, and then back down to the center front, center back. The other thing to bear in mind is that the fabric has not been fused and it hasn't been taped, so there might be a teensy little bit of ease in that. So what I would always do is recommend to put that underneath when you're sewing it, because automatically the feeder of the machine will help that sit in the way you want it to. So keep the tighter fabric on top and the kind of the softer fabric on the bottom. And we're just literally going to sew off our 1.5 the whole way across the top. And just checking all the time that all your seams and everything are facing the same direction, the right direction. I'm making sure to just take off my 1.5 seam length. And that's it. And you can put your pins. And the first thing to double check is that your zip is matching up properly at the top, because now is the time to adjust it if needs be. So in other words, when you close the zip, you want to make sure it's lined up perfectly up the top. And it has. Okay, so up here at the top, when I close my zip, they line up perfectly, and that's what we want. Okay, so the next thing you can do is a back row on here, and this is something I showed you earlier just on a scrap of fabric, but this is how to do it on an actual garment, because obviously this whole thing is a lot harder to handle. So I'll show you how to kind of manipulate it and feed it through as you do your back row. And what the back row does is, as I explained before, it stops the lining from popping up above the top of the neckline of the dress. So you work with the seam lengths facing down onto the lining, and you're working on the lining here, and you're going to put a line of stitching about 3 millimeters in from the edge. And as you go, you make sure to open up that seam, make sure it's nice and flat, this seam here. You want all this nice and flat. So as you can see here, there was a bit of shape on my neckline. There's still a pin in there as well, I'll get rid of that. And I'm constantly feeling underneath with my left hand that my seam allowance is facing in the right direction, and that no extra little layer of fabric is getting caught underneath the machine. So again, pop the hand underneath again, make sure you're facing and your seam allowance is make sure that your seam allowance is facing the correct way. So as you can see, I have to really kind of push the whole dress through the machine, so it can be a little bit tricky depending on what you're doing. And that's it. Just show you what that looks like. So that's your back row. That line of stitching there. So when I now push all that the lining inside my dress, and I zip it up, even without pressing, you can see how automatically the lining and everything is staying down this side. Whereas if I hadn't done that, the lining would be inclined to roll up over the front neckline of the dress, whereas that way it automatically stays in, and it makes it much easier to give a lovely finished clean edge. So there's a couple of little jobs left to do. I have to show you how to hand stitch down the back of your zip and how to sew your vent. So I'll get this all pressed up and then I'll show you how to do that.